you're here early, sometimes it's good to be early. But our show starts at a specific time. You should remember that. Let's get started then, shall we?
Dillon, I don't give a what you think about a co-host and freshen up my show.
It might not be flashy, but sometimes you just got to toss another person to make a statement.
My show's about the people's podcast. Everyone has a voice. I don't need a co-host. Go listen to one of the other 5,000 shows with a co-host because they don't have a mouth like the big guy.
Opie, are you a career killer with Tim Sabian, yourself, and many others?
Be myself. Never had real issues with those people. They just understood that I was a different bird. The rest of them, though, I'm like, oh, shut up. I'm paying your salary because the ratings are so good, so shut up.
Right?
Live from
Somewhere.
it's
Dillon.
Good whatever to you, whenever you are listening to this episode of Co-Host Auditions. I am your co-host, Dillon. This is my self-taped audition to be the second mic to someone's channel who is monetized, but I am creeping my way up to monetization. Thank you, new folks, for getting me ever so close to making money on this venture. I should probably open a business license and business account because I do want to be above board. I don't want to get an audit. So thank you all for joining. Today is an episode hosted by Metatron, a guy who looks a lot like me. Thanks to Honk the Clown from the Spurgtopia Discord, that's the word I'm looking for, the Spurgtopia Discord, for bringing this guy on my radar. And it's been a while since we have done a historical episode. Oh, and that's the background for TikTok Around the Clock. As you see, I'm a bit disorganized this morning, as by the TBS in the 90s start time of 10:35, or rather 11:35 Eastern, rather than 30 on the dot. I agree, douche of the Dabbleverse. I think it's about time that I sent that inquiry to Carl. I did want to prove myself. I've been doing this for a year, and I think it's time to ask Carl, hey, can I sit in for a second mic coming up on WATP sometime in the future before I have fully turned on you? And I can explain why the turn is lurking over your shoulder. But he has been putting together some good episodes, bringing me back to his side and denying the turn. So good job, Mr. Hamburger. Just in time for the Ropey Loads, Luigi Greenberg, first mention of the day. That might be too early, 3 minutes in. We might have to put that off for a little later if we want to get this monetized one day, which might be soon. But without further ado, Metatron is our host, and he's talking history.
Hello, number ones. Welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking. Let's talk about...
He's calling me Riker. Thank you for calling me Riker. And I thought I had this on a faster speed, but nope, he is just a fast talker.
Biological warfare. I think most of us have the tendency of associating biological warfare with modern warfare. But surely enough, as we read the definition of it, you'll immediately realize that...
Is this going to be about farts and poo?
This could have...
Actually, I do know biological warfare from the Native Americans, where they would smear fecal matter on their arrowheads and then shoot them. So that has been around ever since Cowboys versus Indians, at least. But are you going to go even further back, Metatron?
Definitely been done in the past. Biological warfare definition: the use of toxins of biological origin or microorganism as weapons of war. There is a certain level of evidence which points to the possibility of medieval forces from several kingdoms and different geographical areas catapulting corpses both...
That looks like a... No, that's not quite a Doom helmet, but he does have a signature helmet there that looks kind of Doom-esque.
Human and animal, with the military objective of causing the spread of infectious diseases, hence causing outbreaks, within enemy fortifications, towns and castles. The intent will not only be to cause physical harm, well, that of course, but it would also be tactical.
Physical harm reminds me of the Jackie the Joke Man joke. Actually, I had a coworker cracking up over that. Aye, 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 you look harmless. open joke way more than they should have, because that's like the classic Stern Show example of the worst of Jackie Martling. And my coworker was just so tickled by the aye, you look harmless, open. A request for a co-host with Ray Pruitt. We either need some AI or a budget to get the actor to reprise his role. So we'll see which one of those come first. But as we do know, Luigi Greenberg and I are members of the Ray Pruitt fan club, and we hope to have him on the show one day.
Because of the great psychological distress of such a maneuver, considering the miasmatic understanding of disease.
What a maneuver, as Vince McMahon from the 90s would say.
People had at the time, they would be frightened. This, of course, is an aggravating factor on top of seeking shelter from constant night and day bombardment, increasing, therefore, the likelihood of surrender. The most famous claim is from the Genoese notary Gabriele de Mussi, which was discovered in 1842.
Look at you with your pronunciation skills, Gabriele de Mussi.
He claimed that the Mongols hurled plague-infested bodies into Kaffa in 1346, and has allegedly connected this act of warfare to the spread of the Black Death, a deadly epidemic connected to the Yersinia pestis bacterium, a series of complex.
Now, that is even further than the fecal matter-covered arrows, is spreading the plague via catapult, or whatever it was.
Bacterial strain that spread all over Europe.
You thought your fancy cannons were better than our catapults, but our catapults have the plague, ha.
In 1346 and 1353. The plague killed over a third of the entire population, bringing an ecologic reign of terror. Now, this, of course, is a very strong claim, and there are a lot of different factors that have to do with the Black Plague, and if you're interested, I made a video like 30 years ago. But it is important to underline that...
Don't be so racist against the plague, sir.
Even though this is a powerful piece of information, he most likely wasn't an eyewitness. In fact, he was believed to be in Piacenza, near Genoa, at the time. So he definitely witnessed the arrival of the plague in Italy, but when it comes to the alleged sieging operation, that's second-hand information. So, it's contemporary, but not eyewitness. Still intriguing. And this brings us to two questions. Question number one, could medieval people...
Questions? You say questions like Stewie Griffin says Cool Whip.
People actually do it? Like, technically speaking, is it possible for the engineers of the time to use the sort of medieval artillery to catapult a full body? Because you see, whether it be the body of a horse or the body of a human, it's not exactly the most aerodynamic mass. Not to mention, a lot of medieval cities had 10 meters tall walls. And if they were able to do it, which we still have to discuss, did they do it? All right, one thing at a time. Without going too deeply into the concept of...
Oh, no, you made that fun picture in my mind of hurling a plague-ridden corpse through the air, and now you're like, maybe it didn't exist after all. That is a heck of a Super Bowl ring he has on his right hand. We'll see it again in a moment.
Medieval artillery, although if you're interested, I could totally make a dedicated video, let me know in the comments. Two specific types of war machines come to mind. The mangonel and the trebuchet. The former...
And that does not count as being like Ray DeVito, that singing of War Machine by Kiss. That is different. That's more like Beavis and Butthead, because I didn't sing the song, I just went along with the beat.
Former used traction through rope pullers, and the latter used a counterweight mechanism relying on gravity for dropping the counterpoise. Now, this is gonna get a little dark here, but I mean, you did click the thumbnail. But mangonels had a limited throw weight, so if we are talking about throwing something, it would have been heads. Now, this mechanical limitations...
All right, there we go. You weigh down the head with some weights. It's a plague head, and it's more aerodynamic than a full-on body.
Seems to be consistent with the reported cases, because anything before the 14th century, there are a few exceptions, but the majority of reports from before the 14th century are all about heads. So you can only throw heads at a time. Only throw heads. And when it comes...
Did Al Snow begin this throwing of the heads? And Mr. Blue Sky is pointing out that the commenter in the opening of my show is being proved more right with me being schizophrenic by talking to myself. The British version of myself, who has damn near 1 million subscribers.
comes to this specific period, there is an interesting mention from 1099, so we are specifically during the Crusades, whereby you have a crusading army and they are sieging an enemy town, but then they identify a Muslim spy among them. So what they decide to do is, hey, how about we put the spy on top of one of our mangonels and we catapult it onto the enemy town, so, we can scare them, basically.
European me must have had a stutter fuck breakdown there with that jump cut, where he just had to be like, oh shit, this is not working. Jump cut to me after the
they couldn't reach, because of course you can't put your war machines too close to the enemy defensive system, because then they can destroy your machines and they were very expensive, complicated to build.
And hopefully we will have Dr. Steve on this Thursday. If not, we have the backup program, kind of like Rocky and Bullwinkle. Tune in this Thursday for an interview with Dr. Steve, or successful failures on dirty work, because he is a professional. So I'm working around his schedule, and he does want to do and is interested in being part of chatting with. But I do have a backup episode of successful failures on dirty work with Spurg Snake if he cannot make it this week.
So they try that, but it just doesn't work very well, and the spy falls on the ground, probably breaks a few bones. Heads, however, assuming a trajectory of 40 meters and a 45-degree angle to overcome 10 meters high walls at a maximum distance of 20 meters from the wall, yeah, you could pull that one off. Not sure if you want to, but I mean, it's the medieval period, isn't it? But what about the mid to late 14th century, 15th century, the period in which the counterweight trebuchet reaches its...
Okay, we're getting a little bit too much into the weeds here. It doesn't look like you're going to talk about anything else with the biological warfare. So let's see. That is an ad. Let's go to your next. I do really... thank you, folks who actually have monetization and sponsors, for putting yourself in a different attire so I can just skip past that point. Looks like I'm going to be sued by Husey Entertainment. And I do have to pass the buck on to the guest that wanted to do Arkham Knight. And then I don't know what happened to him. Still not on deck for Arkham Knight. We've got Hades coming up, and then Prey with Spurg Snake on deck. Hopefully that special guest who steered us into Arkham Knight will come back at some point and do the Arkham Knight. But what is this game with Annie on Hades and Prey are the next two coming up?
Whenever we think about the Vikings or the Norse, we think of their weapons, we think of their shields. Look at this one, goodness gracious. Can't even see me anymore. We, of course, imagine their so-called Drakkar, although the correct term is probably Drekar. The ships with all of these on the sides, really cool looking. And then you imagine their houses, specifically the longhouses. Why, you say? Well, because longhouses are very striking. They stick to your memory because they look awesome, which is one of the reasons why we find them in all sorts of fantasy media.
The problem with longhouses is that they aren't thick enough. You would think it's got the length. Everyone talks about length being very important in these longhouses, but width is also something you need to take into consideration.
Yeah, look at Skyrim, for example, with the fires in the middle. They just look like Viking houses most of the times. And that's also one of the reasons why when I play the likes of Valheim, the first thing I do...
Oh, and that was fun. I did cover that with Annie. And thanks, Annie, for turning that on to me. What am I trying to say? For introducing me to that game. Hades, I was really happy to jump back into. Hades 2, I will get one of these days. And I started a new game. So in the show, I will talk about how many attempts it took me to beat Hades, the final boss.
Every game is build a longhouse. Okay, so Norse longhouses are awesome. So why did they make this list? Well, it has been suggested that several houses within the Scandinavian and Greater...
He's doing better with the audio outside than Gug is, because obviously he didn't actually record any audio outside. He knew what to do. And despite no one watching that Gug episode, I had fun, and I would like to revisit him coming up soon.
Germanic world during the Viking Age might have caused dangerous health problems to their inhabitants due to exposure to high level of carbon monoxide, among other things. Now, of course, I'm generalizing a little bit. We are not talking about every single possible type of structure that was inhabited during this period. We are, in fact, talking about a specific specimen, namely a house made of wattle and daub with thatched roofs and a fire in the center of the house. But it is, however...
You're kind of boring me with this longhouse fact. We are going to jump ahead to the siege of Oxlow. I guess that's a point against me for just throwing in the towel of this segment, saying that I really don't have much to add. But I guess your viewers are really into it because this has a whole bunch of views on its own, nearly 150,000 in 11 months. And as someone from Maryland, Snake, I am legally required to put Old Day, that is Casey Day in a few years. I am legally required to put Old Bay in every single dish that I make from scratch.
Whatever you think about...
Or eggs, or absolutely anything.
About him, his military achievements were incredible, but so were the atrocities that some of his legions and men and forces committed in a...
I like that extra right there. I'm not sure if he's supposed to be looking like that, like a scared little boy. Well, I guess all of the people that aren't this man are looking scared. This one holding the flag appears to be scared as well. So that does appear to be the direction that these extras were given, was to be frightened for your life, knowing that you gonna die.
Some of his legions and men and forces.
Yeah, that appears to be the direction. This one, actually very good. He appears to be putting on a facade of courage, but there's fear behind those eyes. Or they all could just be confused because they shot this really fucking quick to keep this project under budget.
Committed in enemy territory, for example, in Gaul. Now, I believe most of you will be familiar with the Commentari de Bello Gallico, where he talks about his campaign, or
nope,
military campaign in Gaul. But maybe you're not familiar with this one, the siege of Uxelludunum. Now get ready, because we're going to get really dark. A contextual analysis will be required to fully understand the complexity of these historical events that I'm about to talk about. But that would require...
The Legion of Atrocities. That does sound like what the Twin Towers could be nowadays, since that is now a highly offensive tag team name for Akeem the African Dream and the Big Boss Man. The Legion of Atrocities. And that does sound better than the Legion of Doom for the Justice League to be fighting. The Legion of Atrocities.
A dedicated video if you're interested.
And it is much better than the Authors of Pain.
So as usual, you know the drill. Anyhow, to cut a long story short, but still give you a little bit of context, in 58 BC, Julius Caesar decides, you know what? I want Gaul, and he proceeds marching with a lot of legions into enemy territory. And by 52 BC, he has won one of the most critical battles, the siege of Alesia. But even in the face of this and all the other Roman victories, the fact that the Romans managed to make sure that the Gallic tribes didn't unite against Rome, still...
The Garlic tribes, they were very successful against the vampire tribes.
Still, rebellions were a problem. They happened all the time, and Caesar not only wanted to quench them, but he also wanted to prevent them. Keep this one in mind.
As we keep going through this video and seeing how I speak and my facial reactions, you are absolutely correct. Nick Recada's emotional support, Baldo. We look both remarkably similar and oddly different. It's the way that we use our face. He's using his face different. I have one of those rubber faces, which is another reason why I went after some of those acting roles and had a pipe dream of being the Bryan Cranston. People say that he has a rubber face, which is why he is very successful both as a comedic actor and as a very emotional actor.
Mind. So, the Gauls did not stay put, particularly two specific tribes, the Cadurci and the Senones. Now, these were particularly problematic from the point of view of the Roman Republic because not only they rebelled against...
And I thought I was pale, but thank you, European me, for making me look like I am not pale whatsoever. I look more healthy, which isn't saying much. Thank you, Spurg Snake. I need to get back to my regular workout routine, which I did not keep. I kept for like 2 weeks, and I dropped some obvious pounds, but I need to drop more pounds.
against Rome, but they basically turtled inside a fort. And I'm talking about the hill fort of Uxellodunum. Not only this was an extremely fortified stronghold, but it was also surrounded by natural defenses such as steep hills and rivers all around. So 4.5 Roman legions are dispatched in order to take care of the rebels. The thing is that the rebels have no intention to face the Romans. In fact, their plan all along was, we'll just wait in here, we do not surrender to the Romans, we do not want to be friendly to the Romans, we'll just wait for Julius Caesar to lose control, but he's never going to have us. But of course the Romans couldn't have that.
Just keep retreating until they defeat themselves. That's not a bad strategy when you are the rebels and very much outmatched.
Because if they can do it and other Gauls will do it, and yeah, we can't have that. So 4.5 legions are a lot of men, but a frontal assault into such a well-defended fort was not an option. So the Romans start to apply their usual tactics, which was, well, we're just going to starve them to death. So you surround with your troops, again, 4.5 legions is just right, and they place their scouts in a very strategic way, making sure that they can always see, oh, look, they're trying to forage, let's go kill them. And this actually did happen in the sense that they tried to forage, but the Romans just butchered them, and so they retreated back. Now, by this time, Julius Caesar...
You fools! You thought that you could beat them with better tactics, but you were the Tony Khan to the Vince McMahon. We have a plan to win, so we're going to win because it's in our heads. And you're not even going to get re-upped for the amount that you did in the first place, and your video game's going to be a flop because it was released in a very unfinished state, still almost a year after being released, despite the fact you have a fantastic fighting engine. The wildly incomplete game around it can't support it.
Caesar himself decides, you know what, I'm going to join the siege myself. So he takes a cavalry detachment and joins the legions. This is when Julius Caesar decides that just waiting for them to starve was not going to cut it, mostly because that would have taken too long. So he decides instead, how about...
Oh, and we were pretty far away from the biological warfare, and he did not mention any poop or farts, which I really thought he was going to. It was all about flinging plague heads.
We cut their water supply. I'm going to read in Caesar's actual words how he describes...
Or he could shit in the water supply and keep it rolling.
The situation.
And of course, at different times in human history, they would just throw their shit into the drinking water supply because they didn't know any better.
As he arrives. I'll read it in English translation here, but I will also have a full-on reading of the Latin with all of the phonemic vowel length expressed in the members section as an extra for those who are interested in the Latin with the phonemic vowel length.
I'm actually more interested in the history of shit, something that stuck with me from Artie Lang when he was the second mic, of wanting to know throughout history, what did they do with their shit? And maybe that's over on Curiosity Stream. I did see that on the History Channel once, but I didn't really retain much of the history of toilets.
Of course, classical Latin pronunciation. So I don't have to force it on people who are not interested, but if you are interested, please join the channel. And thank you for your support. Having arrived at Uxellodunum, contrary to the general expectation, and perceiving that the town was surrounded by the works, and that the enemy had no possible means of...
And once again, these extras look like they don't exactly know what to do.
Retiring from the assault, and being likewise informed by the deserters that the townsmen had abundance of corn, he endeavored to prevent their getting water.
And by the way, I do have another screen recording for TikTok around the clock of someone who just keeps sending corn to one of those sexy looking ladies who is working for pennies or $3.50 at a time. Someone is really getting off on those ladies doing the NPC. As we saw with Luna, not TS Luna. I've been tuning in to try to get some more screen captures of TS Luna. She hasn't been going live when I've been checking, so hope I have some more of her soon.
A river divided the valley below, which almost surrounded the steep, craggy mountain on which Uxellodunum was built. The nature of the ground prevented his turning the current, for it ran so low down at the foot of the mountain that no drains could be sunk deep enough to draw it off in any direction. But the descent to it was so difficult that if we made opposition, the besieged could neither come to the river nor retire up.
Okay, there's something about his voice that just isn't keeping me. We've got a couple minutes left of this story, and he really lost me.
Precipice without hazard of their lives. Caesar,
kind of like white noise currently, but I'm kind of sticking with him.
Leaving the difficulty disposed archers and
It's a doggy
slingers,
knocking at
and in
my
some
door.
places, opposite to the easiest descents, placed engines, and attempted to hinder the townsmen from getting water at the river, which obliged them afterward to go all to one place to procure water. Okay, so there were two different sources that they could get water from. They were both inside the walled fortifications. One went down into this valley and he placed archers and ballistas to bombard anyone who would try to get the water. But the other one it's insane. In order to prevent the town folk to go and get water from the other spring, which was coming from the top of the mountain, he sent...
I need to watch the full King of Comedy. I know all those drops from the King of Comedy, and being someone who did stand up for a little bit, I should have delved into that. Ma, I'm doing something here. Mom.
engineers to build a tunnel underneath the mountain to reach the spring and then divert.
I hope she lets you keep me, Mr. Blue Sky. I hope that at least 500 of you subscribers your mom lets you keep me. See? Once again, a stutter fuck. That's why I'm hoping to get Dr. Steve on here sooner or later to be officially diagnosed as a stutter fuck or not.
Divert the stream and block the water from reaching the town. Anyhow, that works, they surrender. And here is where shit hits the fan, excusing my Latin. In order to send a message...
All right, back to the biological warfare, where they built a gigantic oscillating fan, had someone running it on a bicycle, and had buckets and buckets of poop that they would throw in there on the enemies that are doing a charge.
All other Gallic and Germanic tribes in general, Caesar proceeds to have the hands of all the male of fighting age from this town cut off. Then he sends all of these mutilated people in the thousands all across Gallia. Mass mutilation to exemplify the consequences of rebelling against the Roman Republic. Anyways, I think this is enough dark.
I did not stick with that story at all. So hopefully you did. There's something about his voice that, well, then again, there's something about my voice too, that Honk the Clown appears to have warmed up to a little bit, because I took his ball busting in stride. I think he also was like, all right, you're more okay than I was thinking.
How long did the Stone Age last? Generally speaking, whenever we think of a historical timeline.
Generally speaking, why not corporally speaking? Bullshit. Dillon just wants a finger up half a bundle of sticks of half a bundle of sticks. And that, again, my stutter fuckness was coming in there. I'm hoping I have that to blame for my stutter fuckness actually being diagnosed as such instead of just stumbling over myself like a fool. No, Dr. Steve will say, you're not a stutter fuck. You're just a fool.
Whether it be the duration of an age and an era, these numbers that we come across can be quite mind-blowing. For instance, the Middle Ages lasted for roughly 1,000 years. That's 1,000 years. Never mind the 1 year you need to wait until your next version of iPhone. So as I was going down this rabbit hole, I started asking myself, okay, but how long did the...
He's going down a rabbit hole. You heard him, police. Go to his house. That rabbits are not safe around him. Whereas I just want a finger up my bundle of stick ass. Doggy, you distracted me from actually reading that correctly. I took 2 swings and a miss at Mr. Blue Sky's comment. Thanks to you. The first one was thanks to me.
Age last, and how long did the Bronze Age last? Now, of course, these amounts, the duration, and even the specific dates will vary depending on what culture, country, civilization we are talking about, which section of the world. But in general, when we look at, for example, European history, then the Bronze Age lasted...
I was not thrown out. I was asked to leave, and I was escorted out.
About a little over...
I know so much about that movie, and how have I not seen it? I am such a horse's ass for really not seeking out the King of Comedy. I need to jump into that.
2,000 years, so that's like twice as long as the Middle Ages. Okay, so as we keep going back, then eventually we'll get to the Stone Age, which, as you know, was divided into Paleolithic, Mesolithic, and Neolithic. So is it kind of a...
I know the Stone Age lasted for 6 seasons. The Flintstones told me so.
Similar thing, the Middle Ages were 1,000 years, the Bronze Age was 2,000 years. So is it 4,000 years for the Stone Age? 8,000 years? 10,000.
This is a more recent one, isn't it? 1 year ago, 288,000 views. He's getting cute with the editing, or he has a different editor that's doing more of that Zoomer type editing that the generation just below me really adores.
10,000 years, come on. Not even close.
That we saw a lot in Charlotte Dobray's videos, and boy, did her viewers fucking hate me who stumbled across this video.
When it comes to the timeline of prehistory, the first thing I'd like to say is that the Paleolithic, so the old Stone Age, is the longest of all. In fact, there is absolutely not even a fragment of a possibility of
That's 2 girthy jokes for this episode so far.
Comparison in length between the Neolithic, the New Stone Age, and the Paleolithic.
The Zoomers love those jump cuts. I prefer something that's done clean in a full take. You're kind of like more of an ex-millennial. I'm kind of, I'm squarely in the elder millennials. But us older generations don't like those jump cuts that the youngers really are into.
So, cut to the chase. How long did the Stone Age last? The answer may vary depending on the scholar. The Stone Age lasted between 2.5 and 3.3 million years. Yeah, take a moment to wrap your head around that number. Given, I have to say for good...
Never too many star wipes, as Spurgsnake and the rest of the Simpsons fans know from that episode. Oh, another long penis reference. That's where we found out that Ned Flanders is fucking hung.
Measure that the number will in fact depend on what scholar you ask, in the sense that some scholars will actually say that the Stone Age began 300,000 years ago. Still an incredible number, but what's up with this disparity?
Thanks for dropping in, Corndiff. The elder millennials, we get along more eye to eye with the Xers than we do the younger millennials and the Zoomers, it seems.
Well,
we stopped watching SpongeBob after the 3 good seasons. Come to find out, people really doing analysis of SpongeBob are telling me I didn't miss much by not keeping up after those 3 seasons.
That is because the people who defend this extremely long duration and so very early beginning of the Stone Age are those who base this date on the earliest evidence of humans using.
And this is a generation far long ago. Boomers, these Stone Agers.
Stone tools. And of course, when we say humans, the date will change depending on whether you're just meaning modern humans, Homo sapiens sapiens, Homo sapiens, Homo habilis, Homo...
Wait, there's Homo sapiens sapiens? I need to look into this. I was unaware of these Homo sapiens sapiens.
Homo erectus, etc. Still,
Homo erectus. No, sir. I am looking for a hetero erectus. Actually, no. I take that back. I am the hetero erectus, and I don't want to be on the same side as another hetero erectus. I did, at a kink meetup, run into a couple of a lady who is into gangbangs and her bisexual lover, but the bisexual guy was much more into me than she was, and I can't go full homosexual. I can go homo flexible, but having a guy suck my cock or him getting off of feeling my pecker while he's in one hole and I'm in the other and our balls touch, couldn't quite do that. And I just don't want to touch balls. I want to be at separate ends.
Still, considering the fact that the Stone Age is characterized by tools made of stone, and the first species that started to use stone and shape stone in order to turn it into a tool are at least that old, then when you look at the earliest possible date and you think of 3.3 million years, it literally...
The earliest possible date for me is this Thursday, with a little bit of an age gap with an older Jewish lady. So
makes the Middle Ages sound like the blink of an eye. Mind-blowing. And that's just the beginning. The University of Oxford is older than the Aztec Empire. Say what?
I did not think of that, Nimrod. When we touch balls, we can absolutely unite. Wonderball powers activate.
Literally, when you say out loud, it just sounds like, no way. The Aztec Empire. But yeah, It's true. Let me explain. See, the University of Oxford is a very unique historical institution, and it does trace its origins all the way back to the Middle Ages. It can claim about 900
What about Muleford? If Oxford mated with another, like a Horseford, it would make a Muleford, right?
years of continuous existence, which makes it the oldest university in the English-speaking world. The official date of its founding being 1096, although that date is not like
You're going to get me demonetized with showing the world your butthole like that. Either jump down or turn around, please.
100% set in stone. Age. Now, when it comes to the Aztec Empire, however, and we have a look at the actual date of its founding, it's a lot more modern than you would think. And I think the reason for that misunderstanding or that sort of expectations that the Aztecs are something extremely ancient is mostly because probably we inadvertently compare them or put them on par with...
Actually, I'm still stuck on that couple that I met. Boy, I did want to do a gangbang with that lady, and it's unfortunate that the bisexual male was the one kind of into doing it, and she was like, yeah, whatever.
Maya, who are instead a much, much older empire. So when the Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés reached the modern day...
That was a weird little audio drop, a bit of silence when he said Cortez's name.
Empire. So when the Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés reached the modern day...
Hernán Cortés? Did you add a dough there and just hastily get it the fuck out of there in post?
Mexico area, so those coasts in 1517, he did find already a pretty strong, developed and well-organized empire, the Aztec Empire.
And my apologies to the Cut of the Jib channel for not checking out as many episodes as I was. My schedule has been closer to 50 hours than 40 lately, and I'm not able to to check out as many beloved streamers as I am. Beloved streamers just doesn't work as beloved chatters.
The Aztecs, or how they call themselves the Mexica, was a Mesoamerican civilization that flourished and prospered in central Mexico. The core, or the center of their power, their city, Tenochtitlan. I swear I cannot pronounce that city to save my life.
And a little plug, that is on the Cut of the Jib channel, correct, Nimrob? Watching Krull this week.
The date of its official foundation, and therefore the foundation of the Aztec Empire itself, is 1345. 1345. Compare it to the date of foundation of the Oxford University, and there you have it. And now,
like King of all diffs, may or may not be tuning in to Krull. So, Sam Bibley, we're going to have to dissect this of asking if it's okay to touch balls as long as your balls win the encounter. I believe that's still homoflexible. You do have to be it counts as homoflexible if you're touching balls at all, even if it is in a combative type of battle.
I would like to take a moment to mention the...
Oh, and we have got your sponsor here. So let's jump ahead. The most replayed, obviously, right after the sponsor.
The Leaning Tower of Pisa was never straight. Ah, yes, the city of Pisa.
It was always a full-on bundle of sticks. It was never straight.
Pisa in Tuscany, Italy. That's what we are talking about. And we all know what this city is famous for, right? And no, I'm not talking about the fact that it's apparently hosting the world's largest Kung Fu practitioners assembly or whatever the heck that is.
Oh, cool. So anyone who still has the 70s fad of Kung Fu fighting in them, pizza is the place to go. Leaning Tower of Pizza. I immediately went to the Goof Troop joke with the Pauly Shore voice. It was the Leaning Tower of Chisa from that, not the Leaning Tower of Pizza.
I'm talking about the Leaning Tower, La Torre Pendente di Pisa. Thing is, though, that I think that...
Never knew the name of that tower until now.
Most people think, well, the tower was built, it was all nice and beautiful, but then something happened, maybe an earthquake, maybe a problem, an engineering situation, and then the tower started leaning, and so people are like, oh gosh, is that going to crumble?
I do like that edit. We've been kind of going down hard on his editor for the jump cuts which the Zoomers like, but us Xers and elder millennials don't like. But that leaning, thumbs up.
And run for your life, but then somehow it stopped. it settled, and here we are, the Leaning Tower of Pisa. But no, that's not what happened. So the Leaning Tower of Pisa is a medieval building. Construction began in 1173, and it was supposed to be the final structure of the city's cathedral complex. It was designed to stand 56 meters tall, 185 feet, and it is made of white marble. Now, all of that is impressive, but the problem is that already, once the engineers and constructors had reached a third of its 8 stories, having completed it, the building's foundation had already begun their uneven settling. At that time, war broke out between...
So let's blame the ground. Fuck you, Earth. Settling all wrong.
Italian city-states, so the...
Oh, okay. And then war were declared, and they needed to go and stop construction on that, and it was too late to fix the problem once they came back.
Construction was altered for almost a century. It's possible that that pause allowed the tower's foundation to settle and probably prevented its early collapse. Anyways, Giovanni di Simone, who was the engineer in charge, resumed construction, tried to compensate the leaning, making the new story slightly taller on the short side, but that sort of extra masonry caused the structure to sink still further. Will it crumble? Probably not for the next 200 years. After that, who knows? A steadily system of tunnels, wells, in order to drain the water...
Will it crumble? That is something that we should have known, that I should know by now. Asking if 66 meters is tall, Sam Bibley. Let's see. A meter, if I remember correctly, is about a yard. So if I am correct, 66 times 3 to figure out how many feet that is. So that sounds tall to me.
Water underneath. 20 liters of soil were added. All sorts of efforts have been made to avoid the base from sinking further. Great. So next time you go to Pisa to practice your kung fu, you'll know a thing or two about the tower. The shortest war in history lasted 38 minutes.
Oh, we've actually covered this before with Wendigo, and I spent most of the time just making jokes about whorehouses because there was something that sounded like a brothel or something. So let's skip ahead to the next war fact, or the next history fact, rather, about Krakatoa. Krakatoa, that is where crackheads keep their crack to conceal it inside their holdout toe.
The Krakatoa volcanic eruption in 1833.
All right, I was about right. 3 meters is around a yard-esque, and a yard that stuck with me. Maybe because of football. No, football is soccer. Football is American football. That a yard is 3 feet. So. And I didn't say exact. I said around. So thank you, Nimrod, for confirming that roundabouts a meter is a yard, just a little bit more.
Krakatoa is a small volcanic island in Indonesia, located about 100 miles west of Jakarta. In August 1830.
Yeah, we have Krakatoa, but really, I'm more interested in Kokatoa. Fuck yeah.
There was a massive eruption or volcanic explosion in the island of Krakatoa, which unfortunately...
So, after this eruption, were we able to confirm if it is or is not actually pee? Because I've been saying that it is both pee and not pee at the same time when the eruption happens.
Killed over 36,000 people. Now, of course, such kind of natural disasters are not unique to Indonesia, so there is a reason why I made this list. And the background of the thumbnail. Not only it was one of the most devastating volcanic eruptions in human history, but there is more. The Krakatoa eruptions measured a 6 on the volcanic explosivity index, with a force of 200 megatons of TNT. By comparison, the bomb that destroyed the Japanese city of Hiroshima in 1945.
I did have to keep the urge of doing a Ray DeVito and singing AC/DC there when he talked about TNT.
I've had a force of 20 kilotons, so nearly 10,000 times less power. The Krakatoa eruption sent 6 cubic miles of rock, ash, dust, and debris into the atmosphere, darkening the skies and producing vividly colored sunsets and other spectacular effects around the world.
I do have to say, wildfire season. Good Lord, stutter fucking my way through this statement. When it is fire season, when the wildfires happen regularly in Los Angeles, it is a very pretty, very beautiful sky and sunset. So Spawn wants to know an off-topic question. What are the odds of Kevin Brennan expecting sexual favors from a clearly drugged out, emaciated, extremely vulnerable April if she accepts the job offer? Kevin Brennan, less so than like a stuttering John type of looking for the sexual favors from April Imholt, who maybe she's getting herself together, but she's off scot-free. That's right. All charges dropped. So back to the lines. Fuck yeah. Nimrod went right to JJ Walker with Dynamite.
World. We even have a description of the phenomenon written by the English poet Hopkins, who tells us that the skies changed from green to blue, gold, and purple, and said that they were more like inflamed flesh than the lucid reds of ordinary sunsets. The glow is intense. That is what
damn red commies
strikes everyone. It has prolonged the daylight and optically changed the season. It bathes the whole sky. It is mistaken for the reflection of a great fire. Data seems to suggest that the effects of the explosion even caused a lowering of the temperature.
Data suggests? I thought it was Riker who suggested it.
Worldwide for a few years. But there are other climatic changes that happened as a result of the eruption that were witnessed thousands of miles away from Indonesia. For instance, the amount of rainfall in
Indonesia. I haven't heard that spin, that accent on Indonesia before. So Luigi Greenberg, I think he might be putting a little bit of English there on his accent that doesn't... Oh, I shouldn't have used that exact phrase. He's putting a little spin on that accent that isn't natural, I believe.
Los Angeles.
I think some of it is real, but some of it is a little put on, a little half and half, maybe 3/4, 1/4 real fake.
And the sound of the explosion was so loud it ruptures the eardrums of people 40 miles away and travel around the world for
deafness for 40 miles around.
Times.
Welcome to Deaf Town.
And could be clearly heard up to 3,000 miles away. For comparison, that's standing in New York and hearing a sound from San Francisco. Alexander the Great named how many cities after himself? Hey, how you doing? Yeah, everything is okay, thank you. Where are you from? Oh, Alexandria. Oh.
You should put on a different shirt when you do this, or do your hair different.
Really?
Whatever, it works.
Alexandria of Egypt.
You see what you're going for.
No. Oh, sorry, Alexandria near Antioch. No. Alexandria near Alexandropolis Medica. Oh, you're from Alexandria Reia, the one on top of Alexandria Arcosia, but underneath.
And where I am from Maryland, they did just rip off a bunch of European cities. Westminster, Manchester, and the doggy is barking, breaking my train of thought.
Alexandria, right?
Train of THOT.
I'm so sorry. Of course, you're from Alexandria, the one underneath Alexandria Bucephala.
Thank you, Sam Bibley. How did I miss that? His armor from the first clip is gone. We can take over this stream and gain all his nearly 900,000 subscribers.
Alexandria in South Dakota, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alexandria, Louisiana, Alabama, Alexandria, Ohio, Alexandria, New South Wales in Australia.
And Alabama does have some silly named cities. What was it? Egypt? I believe there's an Egypt, Alabama.
Yeah.
2,000 years later.
Okay, so Alexander the Great, probably one of the most famous leaders, generals, kings. Everyone describes Alexander as a great warrior with unparalleled achievements, spreading the Greek culture, traversing the ancient world. Alexander the Great was born in Pella, the capital of Macedon, on the 6th day of the ancient Greek month of Hekatombaion, also known as the 20th of July, 356 BC, and he descended from a powerful and illustrious royal family, his father being Philip II. Alexander definitely owed a lot to his father, who was assassinated, but it is what it is. And definitely, he got power, he got riches, he got the amazing Macedonian army, and he must have been very happy with his name, because...
Look at the camera, doggy. Get me some extra views from your cuteness. It's over here. Do I need to bring it down some? That'll cut off the top of my head. I'll be framed all weird like those slow adults from Slow Adult Speed Dating that we will see more of on TikTok around the clock tomorrow.
Because not only Alexander founded an enormous number of cities, we'll get to that in a second, but he named most of them Alexandria. I can already imagine the sort of discussion he had with the engineers, settlers, and architects every time he was building a new city. "My lord, what shall we name this new city?" "Alexandria." "My lord, I said Now, Alexander had a
Okay, I'm getting tired of this joke, but we are near the end of the video, so we will go towards the second segment and the sexy clown segment to get on out of here.
dream, and he wanted to build.
Well, the lady clown segment, I've decided to call it. We will take a vote on if this lady clown is sexy or not, so get ready for the ones or twos on the smash or pass. We'll see. We'll see what wins. I've got my money on one over the other, so we will see.
To build an enormous empire, and one of the reasons why he was building so many cities was not only to expand said empire, but also to foster economical.
Sam Bibley wants you to be the co-host, doggy. You do see my profile picture on my YouTube page does have this doggy's head as the head on the Bob Levy jacket, which I do need to get an update. That's been fun for a while. That was nice, but it's time for a little update. Yeah, I don't want to throw money down for a photo shoot until I get my business account. So it is time. It's time for me to take that leap to get a business account. And I do believe I have enough beloved chatters here to ask for money without it seeming like begging the same half a dozen people. I have more than a dozen here today. Thank you, folks, for joining.
Political and social development. Seriously, it was a great strategist, perhaps even a genius. But if there was
one on Twitch for once. Thank you, Twitch, for checking in. I usually have 0 on Twitch and some on Twitter.
One thing it was lacking, frigging imagination, man. Pope Gregory IX exterminated cats and possibly caused the spread of the Black Death. Okay, this one's just plain up not true. Can we just skip the rest of this video then for stating a absolutely not true thing and then spending a minute and a half on it? And Spawn is checking in before he even sees. He's voting smash on the clown lady. This one isn't really true. Whenever you read about Pope Gregory...
Two checking in. Douche of the Dabbleverse. Already before he sees the lady, he's saying smash.
Gregory IX, so
doggy had enough. The doggy said, no, I will not be your co-host.
Who was the head of the Catholic Church and ruler of the Papal States from 1227 until his death in 1241, you just will come across this idea that he had a lot of cats exterminated in Europe, and possibly because of that, Black Death. Black Death was brought by rats, so there were no cats. This isn't really true. But where does it come from? In 1230, the Pope issued a papal bull called Vox in Rama. The story goes that this bull declared cats as instruments of Satan.
The doggy has had enough of Metatron. She is asking to be let out.
And therefore, medieval people went ballistic and started murdering as many cats as possible. Although it is true that in the bull, the Pope does mention a cat as an instrument of some satanic rituals, the bull does not, however, dictate that Catholics across Europe need to kill cats to stop Satan. The purpose of the bull was to condemn a cult. Did some people perhaps take it too literal and started going...
And it is easy to see why people would associate cats with Satan. They are they domesticated us. We domesticated dogs. We did not domesticate cats. Cats domesticated humans when their ancestors came down from the mountains and decided to look cute enough for us to feed it. They are not domesticated. We are
going nuts on cats. It's possible, but that wouldn't have happened in the entirety of Europe. Also, when it comes to the connection to the Black Death, well, please remember that the Black Death came in 1347. This bull is from 1230, and you don't think...
That is very unfortunate for that race.
The cats are going to breed back. If you think that, then you don't know cats. All right, everyone. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please...
Not really. There's something about your voice. As Honk the Clown said, there's something about my voice that he's not a big fan of. But before we get to the clown segment and asking if you will smash or pass, we've already got 2 smashes in before actually seeing her. We have some history from over on TikTok with this guy... AI Chronicles 6. Okay, so this is not a guy. This is a computer that is here with these AI Chronicles to tell us a little bit about the human history. So that is the future we are headed towards. Computers and non-human life forms telling humans how history went.
History facts they never taught in school. During the Civil War, General Robert Granger wanted to save his troops from venereal diseases. In August 1893, he decided to legalize prostitution in Nashville, Tennessee. He put a
Fuck yeah, Nashville. Oh, 1893, not 2024. God damn it.
Plan in place to decrease STDs. Sex workers had to be registered to work, and they had to get health checks every 2 weeks. Women caught working without a license would get a minimum of 30 days in jail. After implementing these changes, disease rates among
You need a fucking license in Nashville in 1893. Oh, that for some reason my chat went up when I was trying to click on this one. The douche of the Dabbleverse got real fucked up once and nailed some chick that he knew was fat and ugly. However, didn't realize that she had Down syndrome until she sobered up. I was going to say that I've done that too when I saw the top of that comment. I have not done a Downsy girl. I have, my wiener has been in the position to be like, come on, guy. I know I've told you not to bang any more chicks that we are not getting up for, but we need something. We can get it up for this ugly one with fat tits instead of tits, you know, the ones that kind of start at the shoulder and go over. It was very unfortunate because a nice set of tits on a fat girl can really put her over the top. But when it's more fatness from being fat rather than her tits being fat, that's just unfortunate.
Among soldiers in the area went from 40% down to just 4%.
So that was a fantastic plan
soldiers
of getting the prostitutes to get a prostitute license, as I will get my whore myself on the internet license. It is kind of a prostitution thing going here without the sex, but we'll work on that. We'll see if we can get some under the table fuckery going on there.
In the area went from 40% down to just 4%.
And that would bring me to purchase prostitutes much more often rather than 3 times ever if we did have these checks, rather than just being in Vegas and being too lazy. And once getting a small town one because Jesus Christ, I needed to get my rocks off. And before we go to this next little history video, I think it's from the same one. Let's catch up with the chat. No, this is a different one. Simply Stated History has some more facts about history that we are going to learn. Sam Bibley likening cats to a cute girl. If you want them to hang out with you, you have to be chill, let them do their thing, and let them scratch you without reacting, and give them money. That is the strategy to getting and keeping a hot girl. I'm doing my thing over here, and hopefully you will rub up against me at some point, and I will scratch just below your belly, and we will have a good old time together.
Did you know that in the 17th century, nannies in Europe gave young boys hand jobs as an efficient way to put them to sleep?
You do what? Let's hear that fact again. That is quite an interesting fact. It's unfortunate that custom has died off. That would be a really great custom to have kept.
Did you know that in the 17th century, nannies in Europe gave young boys hand jobs as an efficient way to put them to sleep? Welcome to
19th century, so 1800s. This did not make it into the early 1900s, it sounds like.
Weird facts about history. In the 17th century, if young teenagers had trouble sleeping, nannies would give them some double-handed combos to help them sleep. I wonder what the hiring process involved. In the 19th century, all French...
Well, if you stink at a hand job, you really probably couldn't use your hands efficiently around the rest of the house either.
Brothels had to close due to the death of their #1 customer. Victor Hugo, a local Frenchman, slept with so many women that the brothels had to close due to the amount of prostitutes on bereavement leave.
That is impressive. A man of the whores. Not a man of the people, a man of just the whores. Douche of the Dabbleverse has got a few fun fucking around stories. Didn't realize he banged a deaf girl. Did you think there was another Down syndrome girl by the way she talked like New Ferrigno?
This Greek monk named Mihailo Tolotos never saw a woman in his 82 years of life. His mother tragically died in childbirth, and
so I take it he was a bundle of sticks then.
He spent the rest of his life in a male monastery. He did not experience any movies, cars, airplanes, or other modern luxuries, and was given a special burial by his fellow monks.
Oh, he didn't get to see Airplane by the Zucker brothers? Did he get to see Top Secret?
Poor guy. Follow and like for more historical facts.
Okay, the dude in the number one thought the way that he was talking was just because he was drunk. Or like Alice that we had, another favorite from TikTok around the clock. She's only made 2 appearances, but we hope to find that lisping, drunk, dancing, singing girl again coming up soon. She was a favorite of some of ours, and some people could not stand her. I used to have a Kyle Kinane impression. I haven't listened to him for a while, and my impressions are nowhere near as good as our buddy Rocco over at B Dabbler. Let's see the cut. Nope, cut it. No, not gonna try it. But it was somewhere down here. The Kyle Kinane impression. He has a joke about getting a blowjob from a girl that stopped to mention she is still in high school. If it's a senior who's 18 years old, that would get me harder. If she is less, then the fear of going to jail would get me very, very soft. So here is the clown lady for the day. As I mentioned, 1 or 2, and the second video will get a bigger shot of her. So here is, oh, she has got quite the fun name. Cat the Cunt here has some content on TikTok and some other sites.
Just like myself. I am. That's so silly. How would imagine that?
The end of the Kyle Kinane joke was that he told her to finish. Nimrob hitting a 1, and we do have a larger body shot of this lady who did it say OnlyFans, or did it say you look like that girl from Heart?
I am. That's so silly. How would imagine that?
Okay, so Cat the Cunt does not list which site that she is on. So anyone into crushing, this is the girl for you. And she has got some extra poundage on her, and she could pound. Looks like after she's done with me, it would look like the Death by Snoo Snoo guys from Futurama. And I should have been hovering over that drop, but that was a missed opportunity.
Computer sentences them to death by Snoo Snoo.
Yeah!
That is a 2. That is a pass, not a smash from Cupcake's Corner. He does not want to be crushed to death by a... I know Luigi Greenberg. The face and the body are very different. And this goes all the way back to MySpace and then Facebook of the girls having that picture that looks very slim from up top. And those are like triple DE titties. The belly hanging over, kind of giving a guntiness, is the only part that I'm against. Otherwise, giving me the death by Snoo Snoo does seem pretty fun for those gigantic titties. Oh, and the douche of the Dabbleverse pointing out she is very likely using some filters. I did put that one on mute because she had some DMCA strikes going on, and this one has already been muted. The music that was in there has been taken down by the DMCA owners, no longer on TikTok, and it looks like her nipple is kind of pointing out in this Bowsette costume. Bouncy, 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 bouncy. Still a number 1 from Nimrob, a number 1 from Cordis. That is a pass from the king of all diffs. Luigi Greenberg didn't think that filters could take away mass. And we could really roll in that dough very much. So that was the episode for today. And it was split down the middle. I don't know if you can hear Doggy having a flip out. I think she is ready to go for a pee and a poo. So it's a good thing that we have gotten through all of our clips. And that is indeed a smash for me for Cat the Cunt, and about split down the middle of a BBW for the viewing audience that I have here. Once again, the StreamYard does have a background noise cancel out, so I don't know if you can hear the doggy saying, "Hey, fucker, it's time." So let's go ahead and sign off out of here so I can go take care of the dog. Not that way. No, not that way. You're taking the dog outside to make the pee-pees and the poopies. I'll be back tomorrow. We've got some thirst traps and some slow adult speed dating over on TikTok around the clock. And then Thursday is a this or that. We've either got an interview with Dr. Steve or a successful failures with Spurgsnake. There's another one for my lisp with Spurgsnake where we are talking about dirty work. So it'll be one or the other, because we do have a very busy doctor who agreed to do an episode when he is available. So we will see. Nimrod is in a mail truck. He thought he was being fucking chased. So you guys can hear those doggies. Let me tend to them. They are ready to make some pee-pees and some poopies. So thank you all for joining. And shill segment. I didn't do the shill segment where I ask you to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Thanks to Corndiff for dropping that a little bit earlier. That helps the algorithm get me out to some more people. When this is done, you can give this a comment, and the algorithm likes that as well. That's tickling the algorithm's balls. And I don't know if I told the story. While we have the doggy doing a little bit of a break from, there it is again. I went on a date with the face tattoo girl, the split tongue girl. I forget if I told this or not. And she said that asked me if I had a sister, and that the girl version of me is a cunt, and she cut the date kind of early. So not going to have a second date there. And certainly I've gone over the C word quota. I think one is too many, but since Kat already had me say it once, I figured I might as well say that story of the first date going very poorly, as she got the face tattoo as we were talking. And I was like, I really want to feel a split tongue on my wee-wee, but that face tattoo, So the fact that she wasn't into it, that is something I was like, yay, you lost my interest too. And she wasn't even online with my lost interest. That was a shitty play on words. That is the downfall to having this as a live stream, is you get my good play on words and my shitty play on words. I do not bat 1,000 with my puns, but we will bat quite highly on the thirst traps tomorrow on TikTok around the clock at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Thank you all for joining. Now feel free to go away.
Well, it looks like that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for going on this adventure with me. It's fun being with friends. I'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye for now.
Toodaloo. Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen. Ciao. Ding dao day.
Places all. All join hands, circle left. Now circle right and listen to me. LS, MFT. Elementary corners like swinging on a gate. To right, dear honey, with a right to left date. Grand right and left, around you go. Lucky strike means fine tobacco. Meet your honey and give her a whirl. All swing around with the little girls. Smoke 'em, then you'll see. LS, MFT. Promenade and don't you fall. Promenade around the hall. Lucky strike is first again with tobacco men. Promenade straight down the pike. It's time right now for a lucky strike. Yes, for smoking that you're bound to like, you just can't beat a lucky strike.